the city manager and the county administrator, deputy administrator.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, when we're using words like, the weirdest negotiation,
right,
there's a disconnect. Yeah, when the city manager made those comments originally in March at that meeting, all the way till now, there's a disconnect.
So how did this meeting that you're meeting with these county administrators, how did that progress, and then how did it end?
Well, simply after the conversation that we need to work on rebuilding our relationships, I had stated right then and there that it is my goal to work with the county in any way I can for the betterment of Huber Heights moving forward. And if they ever needed anything,
right. Okay.
to reach out to my public email or to come up and visit us at City Hall at any time.
And then you guys left?
At 10:43, we left.
Okay.
We're gone out the building. Going down through the parking garage. At that point in time, me and Mr. Otto had, just had this impromptu meeting that wasn't scheduled with the county administrators. Our city manager showing up.
Right.
A lot of things had happened in that short 20 minutes or so. Because remember, we entered at 10:22, left at 10:43. There for a very short period of time.
Right.
So at that point in time, we're leaving the parking garage. My mind's still moving. I said, let's take a trip over to the court building, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump down.
Downtown court building.
Downtown county court building.
Okay.
So at that point in time, we entered the county court building at 10:54 a.m. After being cleared by staff and wanded, we entered the county clerk's office. At that point in time, we were greeted by the receptionist. Very nice lady. And she had further stated that Mike Foley wasn't there. So, we were sitting there having a pleasant, introduction there with the receptionist, and all of a sudden, we see this gentleman emerge from an office and say, "Hey, Glenn, hey, Richard." And the gentleman's name was John McManus.
Who's that?
John McManus is actually an individual who works for the clerk of courts. So, again, John McManus is an individual that myself and Mr. Otto had met roughly about 5 years ago on the campaign trail. He was running for Dayton School Board.
Okay.
And great guy. We've become very good friends. I had actually, because we're Facebook friends, forgot that he worked down at the county court building.
Oh.
So it was a very pleasant surprise to see him there. So he comes out of the office at that point in time, and, we're chatting up. And he said, hey, I want to introduce you to our chief administrator, Herb Davis. I've never met Herb Davis. So I was like, okay, sure. Of course, they had stated, hey, Mike Foley's not in the office today. Okay. I said, that's fine. So we were
taking a me day.
Yeah, he's taking a me day, and that's completely fine. They did tell me that if I left, that message with Mike Foley, as I did earlier that morning, that he would probably contact me back on Monday.
Okay.
And I said, hey, that's completely fine. So at this point in time, in the county clerk's office, you have Councilman Otto, myself, Herb Davis, John McManus, and the receptionist. Again, we're not in a secret office. We're not in a back room or anything like that.
Right.
Very public area. And we're sitting there chatting up, and I said, hey, guys, real quick, I just want to get this off. And again, at any point in time, myself or Councilman Otto has entered into no negotiations with either one of you gentlemen regarding the county court building in Huber Heights. And John said, well, no. Oh, we've never seen you guys down here negotiating. And, of course, being the first time I ever met Herb Davis, he said no.
So what are these, how do they come into the negotiation?
Well, again, they work with Mike Foley, who is the clerk of courts.
Right.
He protects the integrity of the courts. It is my understanding from the organizational chart that he would have some input, negotiation with the county commissioners.
They would all collectively make this
He would
decision.
be a party member of the table there.
Okay.
Now, again, that's my assumption. I don't know that because I haven't been a part of the negotiations.
Right.
But again, the whole reason of me going down to his office was my thought process is if a judge has stated he's negotiating with 2 council members,
Right.
I got a source that has said those 2 council members and those names came directly out of the judge's mouth. I wanted to ask the clerk of court himself if he's aware of those 2 names. Now, I didn't have that opportunity, obviously, because he wasn't there. So that was kind of unfortunate. But I did ask the chief admin and the chief deputy clerk of courts, John McManus. They had no knowledge of those 2 individuals. They, again, kind of stated exactly what the county administrator said. If the judge has been doing any negotiation or conversations, they're typically not privy to those.
Right.
So they wouldn't have that. Understandable. Okay. But again, I'm just going through that fact finding, inquiring, getting that because, again, I need to share this information with my colleagues. I believe, we need to confirm 100%. My source has done that for me, but I'm trying to find additional avenues. Because, again, we've seen multiple times where these political jobs in Huber have happened and nothing has stuck.
Correct.
I'm providing...
I've heard things.
Yes. I'm providing all this and dates and times and things of that nature because we, as a community, need to finally put a stop to these sidebar negotiations in our community. We finally need to put a stop to this bad reputation that it's difficult to deal with Huber Heights. And I think this opportunity right here, your listeners and the public, is finally going to get a complete open view of this. So after that point in time, we furthered our conversation regarding working with people in the region. Obviously, John McManus has done an amazing job on the Dayton School Board. The state report card just recently came up. They moved up.
Right.
So, kudos to their school administration for putting in the effort. And it was really those 2 individuals sitting in that room understanding that I'm an elected official. I'm here by the people to make sure that the integrity of this process and that to confirm these 2 council members and that, the hard issues and hard difficulties that our city manager has put upon the county commissioners gets, spread to, my colleagues on council and the public. That way we can correct this. If there's an issue, which we've documented there's an issue, we need to correct it.
So you were there to see an elected official, Mike Foley.
Correct. Elected because my city manager told me in an email that I got to deal directly with elected officials.
And he wasn't there.
That's correct.
And you talked to these other 2 guys. Would you say John McManus was a...
He is the chief deputy clerk of courts, and Herb Davis is the chief administrator of the
Are those appointed positions or are those elected officials?
So those are appointed positions.
Okay,
Yeah.
So then is that... No way were you negotiating anything with them, right? So, okay. That's I just wanted to
again,
make
I
that...
walked in to speak to receptionist to see if Mike Foley had returned.
Right.
I'm right down there.
They offered up information as well as you asked the question. Did you ask the question to them? Have you heard of any council members?
I did ask that question to them, and of course, they said, any conversations with the judge, they weren't really privy to.
And that's just an inquiry. You didn't ask about the county or the court building in Huber Heights?
Nope.
None of that. Nothing that would revolve around a negotiating tactic or a negotiating stance. Okay.
No, again, because I had charged my city manager to negotiate this.
Right.
And I believe in the process.
Right.
But I've got too many pieces of the puzzle that are saying this process is broken. And if we don't fix it quick and we don't get a solution, we are going to have a regional issue, not only for our community, but for our region, that is going to be very damaging and very costly to our police officers, our first responders, our residents, our business owners. I am here to work for them, and I need to protect that process. When I have too many people saying that the process is broken, I got too many red flags.
Right. So, what do you think that answer would be? How do you fix that? If what you're saying is true, and I believe a lot of what you say, if anybody listens to the podcast, they'll know that I believe transparency is broken in the city of Heber Heights. For some, I appreciate you doing this podcast. And what do you think is going to fix it?
Well, Matt, that question was something that I was going to be prepared to answer because somebody eventually was going to ask me, Richard, you got all this information here.
Right.
You got all these facts. You spoke to all these people. You've dotted your I's. You crossed your T's. Your sock is tight. What's your end game? Well, Matt, we've seen too many issues in this community where bad negotiation has taken place. We almost lost the U-Haul deal. That's very public.
Right.
We lost the Good Sports deal.
We did.
That wasn't negotiated very well. And we're on the verge of losing the county issue. All because it wasn't negotiated well. It all comes back to one individual. And if we are going to work well within the region and well within the county, it is, in my opinion, that we have to get rid of our city manager and find somebody who is willing to negotiate for the residents, work for the businesses, and do the direction of council. And I think that's very important. And I don't say those comments lightly. Obviously, if you go back and you look at the Team Huber, discussions by other council members, I don't say those comments lightly.
Right.
I give you examples of that, where it's almost cost us, where it has cost us, where it's potentially going to cost us.
So for those that say that's not a good idea, that he is working hard for the people, what do you say to those residents in Heber Heights?
I think our county officials have spelled it out for us greatly.
Right.
We go all the way back to the March meeting. In my opinion, a CEO of a company, that's what our city manager is. He is the CEO. I am the board member.
Right.
You don't go into a meeting and say, I'm not going to negotiate a lease with you. I'm going to charge you more money. At the end of that meeting, there was people looking at one another saying, what in the world was that? That's not how you negotiate. That's not how you build relationships. The example with the U-Haul property. Very public.
Okay.
Do
you want to talk about that?
Sure, I'll share that. The U-Haul property. City manager had shared at that point in time that there was other plans for that property. U-Haul had already entered into negotiations to move to that property there at Brant Pike and Chambersburg. U-Haul, from what I've been told, was ready to present legal action against the city because of the actions of the city administration. We obviously see the Good Sports deal didn't work out. We lost a lot of tax dollars on that and did not get a sports venue out of that as promised.
Do you know specifically how much was lost at Good Sports?
I would hate to sit here and give you that information right now, but if I had to put a dollar amount on it and you wanted to give me a best estimate, I would say that was close to $300,000 as what was wrapped up into all of that.
Roughly?
Yeah, roughly. Again, I don't have those numbers in front of me, and again, I could be off on that. But the dollar amounts, in my opinion, don't even matter. I mean, they do.
Sure.
They're important. It's the trades of negotiation that's going on. I'll give you another example. The music center, naming rights. Our city manager had come at that point in time with a lower dollar amount. City council had said, whoa, that's not good enough. We need you to go back and negotiate more. Had there been yes people on council at that time, we would not have got that higher dollar amount because we forced the city manager to go back and negotiate.
Okay.
City council should be getting that prime rate, that prime negotiation out of our CEO every time he's at the table talking on our behalf. The residents of Heber Heights should be trusting that our city manager, our CEO, is 100% working for the benefit of our community.
So, in that train of thought, and this might be a hard question,
Mhm.
taking that and